looking for escapism, I just want to escape.
Is Tamara home?
Welcome back to my disembodied voice. Back in 2009, when me and the future Mrs. Crow moved into our first house, we took a gamble one Saturday night on a film called The Strangers. As horror lovers, we love a good home invasion movie and gave it a go. Since then, we've become quite big fans of the two films, fingers crossed for the rumoured new trilogy by the way, so I wanted to do a video for them. Actually, I'm such a big fan, this is a photo from 2020 when, between lockdowns, me and Mrs. Crow did some Halloween fancy dress what at our own log cabin holiday. And yes, I know Sackface doesn't have a Negan bat, but we couldn't find an axe prop in time for the thing, so just, yeah. Right, quick fill-in and spoiler time. The Strangers is about two young lovers who are already having the night from hell. Scott Speedman and Aerosmith's daughter Liv Tyler have been out for an evening and, after Scott's failed proposal, they now have to head to an isolated log cabin which is filled with rose petals, champagne, candles, and should have been the perfect place to consummate their love. But, now daughter of Aerosmith has stated she doesn't want to get married, they're facing a very uncomfortable evening together. The Strangers starts at the film's ending, a smashed-up cabin with blood on the walls, a corpse in the hallway, and throughout the film we see the events that have led up to this carnage, with each piece of blood and devastation making sense as we see it unfold. Daughter of Aerosmith and Scott Speedman find themselves attacked by three strangers, I suppose, once they get to this cabin and have to fight their way out. It doesn't go well and, with both of them seemingly dead at the end, two Mormon-dressed children with leaflets turn up at the cabin in the morning, meet the strangers face to face, but are then left to discover the carnage and, as it turns, daughter of Aerosmith still alive after being repeatedly stabbed. The sequel, which took years of development hell, being shelved, forgotten about, and finally being released to a universal meh, saw Mad Men's Christina Hendricks and Martin Henderson taking their wayward daughter to boarding school, but stopping off at a holiday park to see some family along the way. Cue, Dollface, Sackface and Pin Up all turning up to rinse and repeat until many are dead and only the kids survive. Interestingly, as if not expecting a part 3, all of the strangers die very convincingly, either by being burned to death, shot at point-blank range with a shotgun, or being stabbed repeatedly in vital organs. Anyway, I don't want to review the films. I want to discuss the psychopathy which is presented so well here and address some of the reviewers' issues with how the strangers acted in the sequel, and yet why it still made sense. First things first, the strangers are cold-blooded psychopaths. No question, no doubts. But the strangers are, not only by the actors cast to play them right through to their faceless reveals in both films, meant to be teenagers or, at the very oldest, early 20s. The continuum of antisocial personality disorder and psychopathy starts young. Oppositional defiant disorder, or ODD, starts in very young children and results in hostility and bad behaviour towards peers. In early teens, and a disorder I worked with quite a lot during my training days in psychiatric nursing, oppositional defiant disorder moves into conduct disorder, and this often results in severe antisocial behaviour, hostility, and even violence. There are many reasons why people develop conduct disorder: brain damage, genetics, poverty, past abuse, but diagnosed in early teenage years, it's often the precursor to antisocial personality disorder. Now we're getting into the territory of our strangers. The DSM-5 requires antisocial personality disorder to have 3 of the following things. I won't go through each single point here, just the ones I think highlight what's most applicable. So, failure to conform to social norms and laws indicated by repeatedly engaging in illegal activities. Irritability and aggressiveness indicated by repeatedly getting into fights or physically assaulting others. Clearly. Reckless behaviour that disregards the safety of others. Without a doubt. And lack of remorse after hurting or mistreating another person. Clearly. However, when we come to psychopathy, which exists at the extreme end of the antisocial personality disorder continuum, we are getting into some characteristics which the film deals with superbly well. Let's start with the basics. Psychopathy affects the brain, not just the personality, so it has a biological rooting. Psychopaths have reduced connections between the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, so empathy and guilt are absent. More than that, psychopathy often leaves people having semantic aphasia and emotional agnosia. What are those things? Let me explain. For semantic aphasia, words and meanings aren't recognised and there is an inability to communicate. Now, the strangers are silent creatures. We aren't in the Joker territory of joking or Mickey and Mallory snogging whilst on a killing spree. They wheeze, stare, and are seemingly muted. This may well be part of their intimidation game, but the lacklustre delivery of, "Is Tamara home?" and more tellingly at the end, "Because you were home," shows the unemotional connection between their actions and motives. They hurt people because, well, they are there, so why not? Emotional agnosia deals with not recognising the emotions in others. So, if you were to slap someone and they cried or raised their hands, you'd know they're in pain and you would act accordingly and with empathy and shock. The strangers don't. Here, when people are screaming, they are met with stares, almost of a confusion of, "I don't understand." They can't reason with people's emotion because there is no reason or basic understanding within the strangers. Now, the masks are there to hide their face and thus add to our emotional incongruity and fear. The human face conveys so much emotion that we recognise what people are feeling in approximately 0.7 seconds. So the masks both hide the identity and also confuse our need to see the expression of those who are antagonising us. Personality disorder expert Theodore Millen looked at antisocial personality disorders and found that, for many, there was often a nomadic sense of belonging, negative detachment to others, and, the more they expressed themselves through violence, the need to risk-take was what drove their purpose. For the strangers, we know that Daughter of Aerosmith and Scott Speedman are their first victims, or at least the first ones they've killed, as they say it at the end. "It'll be easier next time," one of the girls says as they get into a truck. Therefore, when we meet them again in Prey at Night, their penchant for watching, attacking, and far from antagonising by just banging doors and writing on windows is still present, but now they walk into the rooms, hide under laundry, and confront their victims much more aggressively. They've got more confident, their risk-taking has grown, exactly as Theodore Millen said. Many of the reviewers stated that The Strangers' Prey at Night lost its tension and build-up to kills was all stabby chasing, but, considering these people are now more experienced and confident, their intrapsychic self-regulatory mechanisms of acting out, which is how antisocial personalities meet needs, gratification and self-protection mechanisms, has grown in confidence, and, now when it comes to dopamine hits and self-expression, their risk-taking has increased exponentially. Dollface especially, and shout out to the actress Emma Bellamy, who played her with such gleeful malice in Prey at Night, is especially vibrant in the sequel. Dollface is the one who says, "Is Tamara home?" and then starts the killing of the film by murdering one half of an elderly couple before getting into bed with the other spouse, and yeah, we don't see what happens next, but we see the brutality of what the strangers have done later on when the couple are found together, bound in rope, tied up, covered in blood and missing parts of their jaws. The strangers are not fully fledged when we meet them in 2008. Their sadism grows and risk-taking develops as the two movies progresses, and this is crucial. You don't wake up a psychopath. Yes, there's the dark triad of Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy when it comes to building the personality of a psychopath, and, in childhood, it is thought that the three early signs of psychopaths are bedwetting, fire starting, and cruelty to animals, but either way, people develop and their inclinations and proclivities develop too. To have these lot jumping about, smashing things or raping their victims would have undermined the horror that these freaks don't even understand what they're doing, yet alone maybe enjoying it. The strangers could have played their antagonists like cackling maniacs, jumping about, laughing, swearing all the time, but by retaining these characteristics of psychopathy, they are muted, aggressive, but ultimately emotionless killers seemingly on a voyage of self-discovery via dissecting others. They are monsters in human skin suits. One of the best examples of this is the truck scene in Prey at Night, where the dad, pinned inside after a crash, is suddenly joined by Sackface. The dad screams and threatens him until all his emotion tires out, and then, as he accepts the worst and cries, Sackface finally stabs him after what feels like an eternity of just sitting there. No emotional cues are read or given out from the perpetrator, and, upon stabbing the dad, Sackface just sits calmly, looks quixotically at his victim, and then nothing dawns, nothing is learned. The object next to him is dead. Psychopaths don't have good object relations, so, as a person is much like a stone, i.e. just something that's there, has no feeling or purpose, it isn't really understood. During the first film, when they line up and kill Scott Speedman and Daughter of Aerosmith, they take turns to stab them after removing their masks. This is done almost like they need to complete an initiation. Each one takes turns and then, once finished, walks out impassionately with no theft, sexual assault, molestation, or even a trophy from their victims. They aren't serial killers with motives. They're brain-damaged delinquents who've never understood anyone's distress, get their kicks by taking bigger and bigger risks, show no remorse, and have extremely poor object relations. The Strangers are also about manipulation, which is why they play with their prey, knocking on the door time and time again, only to ask, "Is Tamara home?" Then knock and run, all whilst watching their victims become hysterical. These people are malevolent, but there's no rhyme or reason, no sexual theft or motive. Instead, they have traits which are more sadistic, schizoid, negative, and void of all emotion. Hopefully, the new films won't give a backstory, as these guys don't need it. They are just simpatico, lost souls wandering the streets until they see someone they like. The first film was them going through with murder for the first time, and, watching it now, you get the feeling they have done this before but never gone this far. By the time we hit Prey at Night, they are fully fledged and confident, but the emotional agnosia, joyless slaughtering, and mental blocks of understanding are all beautifully apparent yet quite understated. The Strangers needed to be young because their absence of needing to steal or sexually interfere with their victims highlights the true reason why they're doing this. The reason that after an hour of terrorising, stabbing, and seemingly not even understanding why they are hurting people, the reason they give to their begging victim is quite simple. Because you were home. In other words, I did it. Because I could. I hope we do get the new planned trilogy, because The Strangers is a massively underrated home invasion movie, as is its sequel. The parallels of having these creatures not sexualised in their bland clothes, virtually mute in their sadistic slow torture of people, they are a psychopathic and seemingly brain-damaged far cry from the thugs in Last House on the Left, I Spit on Your Grave, You're Next, or The Purge. Anyway, that's it for this time. So, until next time, I'll catch you later.